Hey, what's up? I just came back from KubeCon, the biggest Kubernetes conference in the world and arguably the best place to get a sense of where the market is at. So in this video, I'm going to share all of my reflections and impressions that I got there so you know exactly what to focus on if you want to land a six-figure DevOps job in 2026. So let's jump in. So if you don't know what KubeCon is, it's the biggest Kubernetes conference in the world, hosted by the CNCF. It's their flagship conference. It's hosted twice a year, once in Europe and once in North America, usually. Over the past few years, it has been growing with about 8% per year. And this year in Amsterdam, there were 13,350 attendees. Now, all these attendees are either working with Kubernetes already, working for companies that are working with Kubernetes, or like suppliers in the space. So it's like all of the greatest minds and people working in the ecosystem gathered together, and it was amazing. Now, the most surprising thing to me about KubeCon was the scale of it. So I've been working with Kubernetes for many years now, and I now make my living coaching people into these careers. So I'm like very close to the market. I always know exactly what's going on and what the trends are. But I had never been in a conference like this that's focused, fully centered around Kubernetes. So the biggest impression I got, like walking into these halls with all of these stands and all of these people, it was like the first time I got a physical confrontation with the actual scale of things and how huge this actual ecosystem is. Like, it's very different if you're just always just working hands-on with it and reading the reports about it, compared to like meeting people in such a huge hall, like a filled stadium with people all working with it. So it's kind of similar to how you memorize better if you do handwriting compared to typing on the keyboard. Because with the handwriting, there are more physical sensations happening and also visual things where you see the letters and you feel it in your hand, that kind of thing. Well, I think a similar thing happened to me when I first actually saw all of the people and all of these stands and yeah, just experiencing the scale of it. Because every big name was there. There was Red Hat, Microsoft, AWS, Google, NVIDIA, ChainGuard, Huawei, Palo Alto, like the list goes on. Like any big name in the industry that you have heard of had a stand there. They were all represented there. And I was walking around with a CTO friend of mine, and he just casually pointed out to like one of the smallest stands because he was hiring one of those. He said, yeah, you see that? That's like $200,000 in cost to hire it. So those were the smallest stands. So there were also these huge stands by Microsoft, for example. I'm estimating those may cost like $500,000 or maybe $1 million to hire. So these companies, they invest a lot of money into their presence there, and they're doing that for a reason, right? They don't just waste this money. They're doing it because they want to have a presence at this event and get more leads for their business. And the talks, it was just amazing. Like there were talks by NVIDIA, Uber, Airbnb, the French railways, the German military, Saxo Bank, the ESA, the European Space Program. It was so amazing to see how many different companies and government entities were using Kubernetes and presenting their use cases for it. So it became very clear to me that, like I've always been saying this, but like actually seeing that physically and listening to these talks, like Kubernetes is not just startups experimenting with it anymore, right? Like these are huge, large-scale enterprises running this in production as their core infrastructure. It's no joke anymore. And it's just so clear that Kubernetes is the way. So when I was in the beginning of my DevOps career and I was working like almost a Linux sysadministrator, when I then took made that choice to learn Kubernetes in my evenings, like I was spending all of my evenings, all of my weekends studying 12 hours a day in the weekend, studying 3-4 hours a day while working full-time, all on Kubernetes because I knew this was going to be it. And when I then started my own business, KubeCraft, I actually literally put it in the name, right? KubeCraft. Like I teach the craft of the Kubernetes engineer. So that was a pretty bold move to make, to actually tie my business to the name, in the name, KubeCraft, I have zero regrets, especially after attending this conference and seeing where the ecosystem is going and seeing how it is being used today. I am so sure that this was the right way. So if you want to also make this step by pivoting your career towards Kubernetes, whether you are a complete beginner, or maybe you're working as a software engineer, or maybe you're working as a system administrator and you don't have experience with Kubernetes, I teach this for a living. KubeCraft is the place to be if you want to make this pivot into a career that pays $140,000 minimum on average. Check out the link below if you want more information about this. Now, last year, there were also KubeCons being hosted. And when I talked to friends who attended, they were like joking that I should be called AI Con, because like everything was about AI. And this year it was also very much about AI. I would say 80% of the talks had some sort of AI element to them. And also all of these booths, many of them had like the keyword agentic or AI powered. It's almost everywhere. So it's almost synonymous with Kubernetes now. And the funny thing was, like, some of these talks, the speaker would open with, "This talk is not about AI," and people would start clapping. So that gives you an indication of how much AI talk was going on. But that also gives you an indication, right? Like, it means that Kubernetes is synonymous with AI. I've been talking about this in so many videos recently, and I'll link one here in the screen if you want to see it. And it's becoming very, very clear that when we talk about AI, we're not just referring on products running on Kubernetes. No, Kubernetes is the infrastructure that is running all of these applications. I've said it before, ChatGPT, Anthropic Claude, Grok, all of these LLMs, they are running on Kubernetes. You may not know it, but this is where they are being trained and run on. And like I explained in this video that you will see linked up here, the CNCF came out and said that Kubernetes is the de facto AI operating system from 2026. Like, it is the operating system. So it is no coincidence that all of these talks are centered around AI. So if you want to have an AI related job, and if you're smart, you will know that AI is only going to grow over the next few years, you would be well advised to focus your career around Kubernetes. This is what I have done. This is what my students are doing, landing six-figure jobs every single week. And you may consider doing the same if you don't want to be left out. So while we were at KubeCon, the CNCF released a new report. It was called The State of Cloud Native Development. And in this report, they shared that there are about 20 million cloud native developers right now, which has grown by 28% in the last 6 months. And from the report, it shows that 7.3 million of these cloud native developers are working with AI specifically. They also shared that the inference market, so serving AI models, simply said, is prospected to grow to $255 billion by 2030. If you then combine that with the statistic that 66% of organizations that are running AI workloads are running them on Kubernetes, and this is a statistic that's published by Red Hat officially, 66% of companies are using Kubernetes for AI inference workloads, then over half of those $255 billion are going to be running on Kubernetes, simply said. Running generative AI is synonymous with Kubernetes, okay? Yeah, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but people still attack me on X and YouTube for saying that you should learn Kubernetes, because they will say almost no company needs it. Well, if you want to have a slice of those $250 billion, like me, if you want to have a slice of that cake, go and learn Kubernetes. And if you want to learn that the best way, the fastest way, you should come to me and join KubeCraft. The link will be down below in the description. Now, there were a few key projects and names that I want to highlight. There are vLLM, LLMD, and Kserve. Those are key words to focus on, which I am going to be personally focusing on in my own journey and in my teaching journey to my students. So my general impression around AI from KubeCon is that there's a very clear shift happening from here's what's coming to here's what we're doing. And it's completely clear that the huge, massive companies are using Kubernetes for AI workloads. There was a big focus on running AI agents on Kubernetes, multiple platforms showcasing what they were doing and having like AI agent registries, agent gateways, very interesting stuff happening for running these AI agents at scale. And what was also interesting was there were a few platforms like Dash0 and a couple of other ones that were showcasing like the AI SRE or agentic observability. And I looked at these demos, and yeah, what it basically came down to was that there were observability platforms, and you had the open telemetry and you had the insights, and they kind of marketed it as if it would take over the AI SRE work. And I've talked about this in videos earlier, which you can find here. In that video, I claimed that like automatic SRE, like AI SRE is still very far away. And these companies, they were like marketing it as, oh yeah, AI observability is here. But what it came down to was, okay, you have your platform, you have your metrics, you can look at it, but you could like take those metrics and push them to a chat. But there was no like AI agent that's like actively exploring this stuff and fixing things in the background. So when I saw these stands, I was like, oh my God, I just made this video and like I was claiming that AI SRE is far away. So I was like thinking, oh my God, I made a mistake there. And I looked at it and then it's like so far away from what they were like marketing it for. So yeah, rest assured, SREs, DevOps engineers, especially with Kubernetes management and observability, were not going to be replaced anytime soon. That was my sense that I got from watching these demos in these companies. So moving away from AI and looking at Kubernetes in general, I very much get this sense that Kubernetes is growing. It's not stalling or slowing down by any means. And a very, very clear impression that I got from many of these talks is that Kubernetes is slowly becoming invisible infrastructure, right? Like platform engineering is on the rise, and there is a trend happening where the developers may not even realize that they're running their applications on Kubernetes anymore. It's slowly being abstracted away, and that is a very clear sign that is becoming very mature, right? Like if they're not even interacting with it anymore, and it's being so well designed that it's a self-service platform, then you know that you're reaching a very clear level of maturity in your infrastructure. 28% of the organizations have dedicated platform teams, and organizations like Uber and Airbnb are running this at a massive scale. Another really cool example was Wave. They do GPU scheduling for vehicles that are driving autonomously. And it's just examples of these massive companies doing huge things through platform engineering on Kubernetes, where the developers are basically self-serving, right? And they also share that there are now over 330,000 certified Kubernetes professionals in the world. And this also is a very clear indicator, right? So there's usually around 120,000 jobs available, but there are already like hundreds of thousands of certified Kubernetes professionals. But the fact that there are still so many jobs open, to me, is a clear indicator that it's just going to grow and grow. And in general, the sense was that the talks were not about like, should we use Kubernetes or is this the right way? It was more about like how to use it well and how we are using it in these massive use cases. So it was very inspiring to see. So in general, like I've made videos where I share the market data and the data is there, but from this conference and my general sense of listening to these talks, it is very clear to me that it's only going to grow and it's going to be a well-paid skill for decades to come. Now, if you find this video interesting so far, please support the channel by subscribing. It's a complete free way to help me support to make these videos every single week, because it's my mission to share DevOps career-related knowledge with you every single week so you can make the best decisions for your career. please subscribe right now by clicking the button down below. It's completely for free and it really, really helps me out. Now, the great part of an in-person event is that obviously you can meet people from the industry. And I've met so many interesting people. I saw Moomshot Maman Beth, got a picture with him, chatted with him about business, was really cool. I saw Nana from Tech World walking around. Another really cool thing was that I met Gerhard Lauzu in real life for the first time. I did a podcast with him on his channel, which you can find here. And you may know Gerhard because he has been running the Ship It podcast since 2021. So he's like a big name in the industry. And we had a great time. We walked out and we had sushi together a bit away from the conference to calm down a little bit. And we had a great conversation. And it was just so nice to meet a giant in the industry like this and have some time with him. Absolutely great time. So if you're watching this, Gerhard, thank you so much for the great time we had together. I really appreciate you taking the time with me and having some sushi together. It was awesome. I also spent a whole day with one of my senior mentors called Rio, and it was such a great time just hanging out together, going to talks together. And what was pretty cool that we were walking in the hallway one day, and he just casually pointed out, hey, you see that guy there? He's one of the creators of Docker. It's like, what? It's so cool that you see these kind of people just walking around. I also met the creator of the CMPG database operator, right? It's just so many cool stuff happening on these conferences. So yeah, absolutely love it. And the craziest part about everything was that literally every 5 minutes, someone would come up to me and say, hey, you're Misha, right? From YouTube. Yeah, I know your videos. Like, it was an insane experience. Like, I'm really introverted. I'm a bit of a recluse. I usually just work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I'm not really, I don't really get out that much. And then when I got to KubeCon and I got all these people coming to me, asking me for pictures, for selfies, it was a very unusual experience. I think I don't realize how big of a reach I am having in the ecosystem, which was a really eye-opening experience for me. It was really cool. So if you were there, please comment below if you saw me and if we took a picture together. It was really funny. One guy, he came up to me. I posted a picture in a YouTube post and I met him the next day and he said like, oh, all of my American friends and all of these friends, they were saying, you met Misha? This is Misha. It's a very unworldly experience for me, but almost feeling like some sort of celebrity or something, which was very awkward and something I will need to get used to when going to KubeCon apparently. But yeah, it was really cool just to walk around and every 5 minutes someone coming up to me, telling me how I changed their lives. There was one guy, he saw my videos, he's from Cameroon, and he moved to France, got a Kubernetes job, all thanks to my videos and my help. So yeah, that was just great to experience. So the personal interactions and this whole side of attending these conferences, it was absolutely great. So bring it all together, I'll share the 3 biggest trends that I have seen from the conference and also share what exactly you should be focusing on if you want to increase your salary with 50K or more in the coming year. Now, trend number 1, I already talked about it, but it's AI infrastructure. It's not AI as a product, but it's more around the AI infrastructure problem right now. So it's not a question of whether AI is running on Kubernetes. It's now like, how are we going to solve this in the best way? Now, some of the issues here are then GPU scheduling, inference, and multi-tenancy. And there's a lot happening around AI agents, agent registries, AI gateways for Kubernetes. Now, the key names to focus on here are KeyServe, VLLM, and LLMD. So what was really cool was that at KubeCon, what happened was that NVIDIA donated their dynamic resource allocation driver for GPUs to the Kubernetes community. They took their proprietary software and donated it to the community so that the rest of the ecosystem can benefit from this, right? So you can see the shift of these big companies with lots of money developing on the platform and then donating it so that other companies can benefit from it. And this is a very clear sign that we're heading in the right direction here. It signals that it's not vendor controlled anymore and that GPUs and AIs are now a first-class citizen in Kubernetes. And it's clear proof that the ecosystem is not slowing down. Now, the second trend is platform engineering. I already talked a little bit about it, but it was very clear that this is where the best practices in the industry is heading. So the sessions were not about what is platform engineering anymore. It's like, how do we measure that our platform is performing optimally? And how do we get our developers to use it in the best way? So it's very much in a refinement stage rather than an establishment stage at this point. And with over a quarter of all organizations having a dedicated platform team, the debate is over. Now, one key point here is that Backstage is very quickly becoming the de facto standard here. So Backstage is one tool to focus on for sure. Now it's all about measuring success and accelerating developer adoption. And the third really interesting trend was sovereignty. So the second day of the keynotes were completely centered around this topic. And it's very much a European topic, but Red Hat gave a talk where they shared that 79% of the organizations have sovereign AI as their top priority. Okay? So being able to run AI workloads on their own infrastructure using open source technology. So sovereignty in this context means interoperability. So being able to run something and being able to run that on multiple platforms or locations and having no vendor lock-in. And this again is why Kubernetes is the obvious choice, right? Because Kubernetes runs in all of the clouds. And by extension, you're running your workloads in containers, right? So containerization is the mechanism that allows interoperability and moving away from vendor lock-in. So if your applications are containerized, you can basically run them anywhere as long as there is a container runtime. And Kubernetes is the standard for that. So these organizations, they're focusing on building their platforms on Kubernetes so that they can, if they are in Azure, they could move away to on-prem, or they could have a hybrid cloud strategy where Kubernetes is the common language between all of them. Now, one good example of one of the talks were the French railways. I learned that they are the second largest railway network in the world. I had no idea. And they have a very interesting split where they run 30% of their workloads on-premise and 70% in public cloud, all in Kubernetes. Another example was the Bundeswehr, so the German defense, German military. They were centering their whole stack around open source and cloud-native technologies. Very cool to learn. Also, the European Space Agency, ESA, they are also building a full open source stack centered around Ceph, Kafka, Postgres, Kubeflow, Spark, all running on Kubernetes. It was really cool to see. So, deriving from all of this, what should you learn? So, number one, obviously, Kubernetes, it's non-negotiable. The second one is platform engineering and Backstage. Third one being AI infrastructure. Now, you don't have to become an ML ops engineer, but I think it will be a great investment in your career. And this is what I'm personally going to be focusing my learning journey around, is to hosting AI workloads on Kubernetes, like AI inference on Kubernetes. That's going to be the thing. So I'm now entering a phase where I'm going to be deeply studying K-Serve, VLLM, LLMD, and of course, building courses around this for my KubeCraft community, teaching the people how to do this. And finally, there's observability. So OpenTelemetry has definitely won the game here. I've watched so many different stands with these like AI agentic monitoring platforms, but they had one thing in common, and all of them were centered around OpenTelemetry. So this is also what I'm going to be diving deeper into myself, but OpenTelemetry is the key word, and that's the one to learn. So KubeCon was definitely a great experience, and I'm going every year from now on. I highly recommend it. And it's completely clear that cloud native is not slowing down, and Kubernetes is the thing to focus on if you want to have a well-paid tech career for the next decade or so. Now, if you want to have the shortest path to a six-figure Kubernetes engineer, check out the links below in the description. I teach this stuff for a living. I created a full system that you can follow to land a six-figure DevOps job within 2 to 6 months, depending on where your starting point is. So check it out, join KubeCraft if you want to have that juicy six-figure job, and I'll see you guys in the next video.